Chaotic greetings to you. Now, as a sewist, I personally enjoy buying things from real people, but as I usually use patterns from the 40s and 50s, I don't need modern patterns all that often. And when I did desire a modern pattern, I used to go to places like Joann's, R.I.P, or the Big Four's website, Simplicity, McCall's, Butterick, and Vogue, for those of you that don't know, which also is in danger of no longer being a thing either. So then the next question becomes, where do we buy modern sewing patterns? And the answer used to be Etsy, a place that originally started for vintage and homemade goods, and now has turned into a veritable landscape of AI toxic slop.
Oh my God, what is that? Oh my God, what is that?
That you must wade through to potentially maybe also, just with a hair of a lick of luck, find a real person selling a real thing. But since Etsy is still my go-to old school last vestige of places that I remember to get things from, I am going to buy a couple of AI sewing patterns from Etsy so that hopefully maybe because it's through Etsy my credit card won't get stolen, to make them and show you exactly why you should never buy an AI sewing pattern. And a quick disclaimer, no, this is absolutely not sponsored by Etsy, but it is sponsored by Nola Mattress. More on them in a little bit. So let's get shopping. I guess it's time to buy some AI-generated patterns from Etsy. So I started off by doing a search of a pattern style that I might want to include in my stash. And I was greeted by a barrage of AI-generated sewing patterns to get started with. Now, at first you might just be like, Stephanie, aren't they just using AI for their model rendering so that they can put their pattern onto a human? Yes, they are doing that as well. But here's the kicker. You should never, ever expect a shop to run a 70 to 80% off sale all the time. That's the first warning sign. Boo-doo, boo-doo. Y'all, if you're selling PDF patterns that you took the time to properly scale and make and do the instructions and do everything, you should not run a 70% off sale all the time. That's just lessening the quality of your work. Yeah, and this sale ends in counter is just there to make you buy it now. It's not, the sale doesn't end. It does not end. I've had this notification for 3 weeks in my thing. It does not end. They just refresh it. Now, when you look at the listing, obviously, pretty basic. One of the other red flags to me is that one, they're using an AI model. They didn't actually make the garment and put it on someone. How do I know this?
Oh my God, what is that?
What fabric do you know looks like this modeled polka dot that has dots that are little lines? That is AI. That is an AI fabric. It does not know what polka dots look like. Other thing, when you look closely at the face of this model, she does not have the standard asymmetry of an average human. When you look at things like her jawline being very different, one side is square, one side is more oval. When you look at her eyes, they're two different eyes. It looks like this computer cut two people's faces in half and smushed them together. The eyebrows do not give it away because sisters, not twins. And I do want to be very clear here. I am not saying that these type of features could not occur in nature. However, this is clearly a computer-generated idea of what a human is, not what real people are in real life. Now back to the shopping. And now it was time to look at the sizing. So according to them, I am going to be a US 24 3XL, which does fall into their pattern range. Great. Here's where it really gets me. When you are a small business and you're trying to create a look, please don't let things like this slide. In this image, what I am seeing is a princess line seam that jumps out of the fabric and goes to the top of the, where you start to get the neck going. And it goes down into the skirt. Now, could the skirt be tiny little darts? Very possible. I question as to why they would be there because this is supposed to be a flared skirt. And in your model, there is no dart in her skirt. Of course, it's all AI, so, you know, that is also a part of it. I also ended up buying this blouse pattern as well for this experiment, even though the sizing wasn't ideal. Triple XL is not big enough. This is why I don't design patterns. Pattern designers, please make sure that you are including all the way up. Humans are in every shape and size. You need to go bigger. And now with our horde of patterns that we have acquired, let's go ahead and check out and get to printing these bad boys. With all of my pages now safely printed out, it was time to put them all together. And when I tell you I dislike putting together PDF patterns, I don't mean that facetiously. Wait, every page? Oh, that's me so irritating. I mean, I would rather go into a child's schoolroom, grab a piece of used gum from under someone's desk, and put it in my mouth and chew it for 30 minutes straight than to tape patterns together. I hate it. Listen, I had no desire to actually talk to the camera today, but I have to tell you guys this. Don't actually cut off all 4 sides. Never, ever, ever do that. This is what you do. You pick 2 sides, and that's what you cut off. So I chose this side and this side, because what that allows you to do is take your next piece, cut off the same 2 sides, and then you have this backer. So you're not trying to tape air, and you can line it up this way, and then you have the paper to kind of hold it a little bit stiffer, as well as when you do the bottom one as well. Hooray, AI patterns. Okay, let's tape this thing together now. Also, just a gentle reminder, the only reason I tape these together on the floor is so that you actually can see what I'm doing. Do yourself a favor, tape them together on a table. Otherwise, this might happen. I printed all this shit at the same time. However, I did eventually get them all lined up, taped together, and ready to go. Also, I fully encourage to review your PDF pattern before you just blank print it, because as you can see here, there were many pages that I did not have to waste my ink or paper on, and I still got a complete pattern. Then when I started to cut out this pattern, I started to notice some problems. Starting with the fact that they didn't actually separate the 2 skirt pieces, so it at first looked like one big giant piece that was a mistake, and then I looked at it again and realized, oh no, that's a front and a back. However, the way in which they did the back skirt was the most confusing cutout ever, and, future spoiler, wasted a crap ton of fabric. But after all that work, I do believe it is time to rest and relax for the evening with the sponsor of today's video, NOLA Mattress. And in case you haven't heard of NOLA Mattress before, they are an award-winning company known for their cooling technology, their exceptional pressure relief, and their long-lasting durability. Now, I am personally a side sleeper, so I really enjoy my Evolution Comfort Plus, because not only is it built for larger bodies like mine to make sure that the pressure support is what I need when I'm sleeping, hopefully a lovely 8 hours. Marshmallow, do you have anything to say about that? He has no comment at this time. He's cute though. And my favorite part about how I got my mattress is that it is all rolled up for me in a nice little box delivered directly to my front door. And all I had to do was cut it open and let it fill in with all the glorious air so that I can get a good night's sleep. And if you're concerned that for some reason you wouldn't enjoy the mattress, never fear. There is always a 120-night sleep trial for you to test it out so you can be assured of your purchase. And each mattress that is purchased comes with a limited lifetime warranty, and NOLA also offers flexible payment options. I love my NOLA mattress, and I think you would too. So if you're looking for a new bed, head to nolamattress.com/StephanieCanada and use code StephanieCanada at checkout so that you can receive an extra $50 off on top of whatever sale they're running at the time. So make sure you check it out because it is a limited time offer. Psst! After you check out, you can support my channel even more by telling them that I sent you in the post-purchase survey. And thank you to NOLA for sponsoring this video. So now I think I'm gonna go catch some Z's and then we'll see you tomorrow to keep going. And while I wanted to give you a nice calm cutting section where you can see I picked fabrics that were stretchy for the one that was too small, and a fabric that I had had on eBay for 2 years prior to this for the dress pattern, unfortunately it devolved very quickly. This is why. This is why you buy from real people who test their patterns with real people, not on real people. That sounded weird. Tell me why this stupid dress has 2 zippers for a very large open square neck. Make it make sense. Side back. Zipper. So side zipper installation. Cool, fine, totally normal, very vintage. Love that. Not a problem. The problem comes, number one, this is the center back. And even if you were to put a zipper from here to here, what is that going to accomplish when this is your center front? It is so open, you do not need a center back and I hate this pattern so much. This is why you buy real patterns from real people. One thing I did know from the jump is that this skirt was way too small. So I was going to have to lengthen it at least 5 inches. However, if I were to follow the instructions on this pattern, this is how I would be cutting it. I would have to put the straight of grain here, and I would have to fold it along the bias twice to get this crap. This does not make sense. No one who is a real person did this pattern. And I know that because of the skirt front. So here's the skirt front. If I were to run it with the straight of grain the way you're supposed to, the fold would be here. Straight of grain, fold is there. This is bull AI.
A few moments later.
Okay, listen, I was ranting, and then Tina chimes in with the reason why I'm making this video. So if you don't listen to me, if you think I'm blowing it out of proportion, maybe listen to Tina.
So I'm a quilter. I've made one dress with Stephanie, and I'm very lucky that I have Stephanie to teach me how to make clothes. However, if I went on the internet and I bought that, 1, I wouldn't know it was AI. 2, when I started, I would be so confused. And then 3, I would think it was me that made the mistake and that I just don't know what I'm doing. So then I wouldn't do it again. I would be so confused and so disheartened that I wouldn't want to try and make clothes again because of this pattern.
So there. I'm moving forward. We're doing this. But she said that, and I was like, that's the whole point. That's the whole biscuit. That's the biscuit with the honey and the butter. That's literally everything that I'm doing. So, okay, I'm going to go back to cutting out this monstrosity because it's awful. Doing it just like they asked, even though it's really stupid. But now that I had all the dress pieces cut out, it was time for the blouse. Let's talk about this blouse pattern, shall we? This absolute bloody monstrosity. And here's the thing why I say that. Number 1, there is an option on this pattern to go ahead and leave off every layer except for your size. Now, me being me and wanting to see the whole picture, I went, no, I want to see all of them. This right here. No real human designer who tested this with real people would think that this is acceptable. I will go ahead and insert a little image of some of the ones that I've used from Made for Mermaids who are real people, who test with real people, who adjust their patterns after they've had feedback from said real people. Number 2, see this piece right here? That placket, whatever. Also, why is the placket not in the placket box? Do you see anything missing? Just anything? Anything you might need? I don't know. Like a notch? Or a marking, or a denotation of any kind on this stupid AI pattern. No, I didn't think so. That's because they're not there. These marks up here, that was just to align the paper so you could tape it together correctly. And that goes across the entire garment. The only piece on this entire princess line blouse that has a notch is the sleeve. And truly and utterly, I'm assuming that gets aligned to the top, but I don't know. I don't know because there's no notches on anything else. None. There's not a notch anywhere else. So how would I know? As a beginner, if I had never looked at a pattern before and I thought, ooh, this blouse is super cheap, it's only $2.50, I'm gonna buy it, I would never want to sew another garment in my life. And I started with 1940s unprinted sewing patterns. But I'm gonna keep going, despite the fact that this sleeve, by the time you get to my size, is completely curved the wrong direction. Okay, Brenda, I'll cut it out like that. And then I'll fix it, because that's not what an arm looks like. That's not what an armhole looks like. That's not what an armpit looks like. That's not how this works. Anyway, it was time to start cutting out my pattern. And to be very clear, I was aware that this was not my size, but what I was going to do was I was going to add a 1/2 inch to the fold at the front and a 1/2 inch to the fold at the back center, giving me 2 extra inches in the pattern, as well as counting for the negative ease that the stretch fabric was giving me, which put it directly at my measurements. And now with that nightmare on Pumpkin Street all cut out, I think I'm gonna start with the blouse because it definitely looks like it has the most challenges, also known as the least information, even in these atrocious instructions. And then with it pinned together, I wanted to take it and see if it would actually go around me. And trust me when I say I removed this audio for a reason, but yes, it did fit around me, so I jumped back to the sewing machine to stitch it all together. And here is my disclaimer. I will say that had I not at this point had 5 years of active sewing under my belt, reminding myself of how to sew seams, how to sew notches, how to do princess seams, what happens when a notch doesn't exactly align, looking at you vintage patterns? Had I not had the totality of that experience, putting this together would have been nigh on impossible. Because these patterns give you almost no useful information. And because this is a stretch material, I was using a ballpoint needle as well as doing a light zigzag stitch so that when I did not put in the zipper in the back of this, I would just be able to, hopefully, throw it over my head. Because be danged if I'm wasting a good vintage zipper on this thing. Listen, it's good enough. Fun fact, I did not break every stitch, and it did slip over my head, so I moved forward. Yeah, this can totally be pulled over. Amazing. Love that for me. By sewing up the sleeves. I started by enclosing the sleeve and turning it into a tube. Twice even. And listen, because I'm trying to speed run this ish, we will not be lining any part of this because I truly don't know when I would ever wear this. But I am going to be double turning this. So I'm gonna go 1 and then 2 to make a bottom edge that then this fine elastic here can get inserted into because I'm not doing it the way they want. And to make matters worse, the length of elastic that the pattern told me I needed was drastically wrong on all accounts. So I ended up just wrapping the elastic around my bicep and pulling it until I felt like it would be secure and in a location where I needed it to be, which ended up being 13.5 inches versus the pattern's 20 inches that it notated. And while I was able to create a channel for the bottom elastic to go into, I did need to use some of my bias tape to make a top channel for the elastic to go into because I did not opt to line the sleeve. And when it finally came time to attach the sleeves to the blouse, it became very apparent that no human had ever looked at these pattern pieces in my size to see if they actually, I don't know, aligned. Because there was a huge gap and there was no notation that I was supposed to ease anything. So I pinned it the best I could, stitched it together, and absolutely called it a night.
Goodbye.
Good morning. Yes, indeed. I did finish up the blouse last night. You're just gonna have to wait to the reveal to see it. Needless to say, this does not encourage me to move forward with the other AI drafted pattern that I have to do today. So I think to give myself a little motivation, it's time for the tactical hair tie. Because my hair's not staying up, no way. Down, not staying down, that's what I meant. And now, we sew. Because this is literally the only way I'm gonna do this today. AI. And I tried to start by reading the instructions. This does not go well. These instructions just told people that you can leave the neckline raw with just a stay stitch holding it with a prayer. Are you freaking kidding me right now?
The woman was too stunned to speak.
Oh my god, please don't do this to yourselves. These are wretched instructions. They tell you to stay stitch after you've sewn stuff together. It's like, no, you start with stay stitching so that when you're manipulating the fabric, it doesn't pull it out of doesn't pull it out of alignment. They want you to just overlock the edge. They want you to, a visible seam. They want you to just raw dogging it in the breeze. Don't do that. Then after attempting to read the instructions one more time, I said screw it and went with my baseline knowledge because they were just not making sense. And while this pattern was arguably slightly better because it actually had, I don't know, notches to align it, when I did the pin test, it was really just to see if it would actually close. It should at least close. Sometimes it's all you can hope for. And truly, the bar is that low for these projects. So I went along and stitched it all up so the bodice was complete. One down, like 6 more to go. And I do want to take a brief second to just say thank you to all of my members and patrons, both here on YouTube and on Patreon. Truly, I could not do what I do without your support. And if you would like to become a member or join the Patreon, make sure that you are clicking the join button down below or heading over to patreon.com/StephanieCanada, and you can join us in the Chaos Crew, where you get extra videos, polls, and input as to how these videos turn out. So now, bodice is done. Huzzah. Don't fall in the trash can. But as in any proper stupid AI pattern, they didn't include pockets, and we can't be having that in these hair parts. So I cut out some pockets, so now I'm gonna attach the pockets to the skirt before I do anything else. And I'm gonna get down so I don't get all the blood in my head. That was a choice. And yes, there was a brief moment where I was concerned that the pockets might be longer than the skirt. However, thankfully, I had lengthened it enough that that wasn't a problem. So I attached my skirt pockets as if they were an extension of the fabric, understitched them so I could actually find them, and then stitched along the line that you see here. And with that all wrapped up, it was time to take a moment and just look at how comically small this skirt is. Yes, I am aware that it was labeled as a mini dress, however, I didn't think it would be that mini. And this is after I added the 5 inches. And then it was time for everyone's favorite game, pin the bodice to the skirt. And well, while it went along relatively smoothly for the front half, the back was another story. We know these notches. They're not even suggestions. They're not ideas. They don't even go anywhere that belong to anything. The only ones that lined up were on the front, but those back notches mean absolutely nothing. So I'm just going to be, listen, I stopped paying attention to the directions when they told me that you could leave the neckline raw.
Goodbye.
So I am going to attach the skirt to the bodice. I understand there are no sleeves on it yet. I am not saying I'm procrastinating on the sleeves because I have a feeling this is going to go very poorly. So yeah, we're holding off on the sleeves for a little bit more, but I'm going to attach this because I need Tina's help to kind of like make sure the back is even-ish, because this is a short skirt and I would not like to show my everything to everyone all at the same time with a gentle breeze that do occasionally happen in Florida, though they are rare in Central Florida. But I digress. So I'm gonna take this over here and I'm just gonna do a little bit more sewing that's absolutely not in line with the instructions, but it doesn't matter because this is all whims of a computer anyway. Oh, getting up is painful. And after attaching the bodice to the skirt, with only minor incidents, I then started running all the gathering stitches for the sleeves, which at this point devolved into me hunkering down so hard that I looked like the Grinch. The resemblance is uncanny. And I was so perturbed at the sleeves, I finished them off camera. I did opt to install a center back zip that ran the entire length of the dress, not just 6 inches, and sewed that in with my usual railroad method. Then I did find some binding that looked pretty complementary to the colors of the dress, and this second project was wrapped up as well. So what exactly are the takeaways from this entire experiment? Well, first off, is that just because it looks good in the image does not mean that the product that you are very cheaply paying for will actually get you something that looks like the fake image. This is my genuine first reaction in 3, 2, 1. Oh no! Wow. Okay. There's so many things. I don't even know if you can see that. It's like totally the bust, the boobs are like up here, like at my shoulder. Alright. Oh no. Because at the end of the day, it isn't actually AI. It's a large language model that is taken off of stolen IP from every corner of the internet, shoved into one computer, and regurgitated back to you in the form of these god-awful patterns. Next takeaway is that just because it says beginner doesn't mean it actually is. I have literally never seen a pattern ever require 2 invisible zippers for a beginner, let alone tell a beginner that they can leave a neckline completely raw or zigzag it and that will be good enough without any type of denotation as to which fabrics you could leave raw. Spoiler alert, there really aren't any that you can do that with. Patterns made by people will still have mistakes. However, they will not be nearly as plentiful as these 2 projects that I just made. Because a person making a pattern is not going to be perfect every single time. So you have to give them a little bit of grace. However, when you see a company that has 44,000 sales and 12,000 reviews, most of which are positive, really stop and think about what you're actually buying, because when you go and look in those reviews and look at the real images from people, a lot of the times they don't look anywhere close to what the pattern that they're attached to looks like. So stop and take a minute to really critically think that this pattern maker didn't have enough time to find a model, make a garment, test the garment, and photograph said garment for you to buy the pattern from. That is a huge red flag, and you really should not be buying from people that don't take the time to put real garments on real bodies and really photograph them. And these AI companies that come in and are trying to just sell bulk do not care what garment you get out of this pattern. They only care about the money that they make off of you. If it looks too good to be true, it probably is. So go forth and find yourself either a vintage pattern at a thrift store, a vintage pattern from my website, any pattern from anyone who actually cares about the garment that goes on your body when you're done. Because these patterns are so bad, there is a potential that if you try one of them, you may never want to sew again. And I don't want that to happen. And I do want to thank NOLA Mattress one more time for sponsoring today's video. If you would like to pick up a new mattress for yourself, you can use my code StephanieCanada at nolamattress.com/StephanieCanada for $50 off any extra sale that they are having on their website right now. And if you would like to watch a video where I actually enjoyed making something and enjoyed the final product and is a little bit spoopy, you can go watch this video right here where I made cute little outfits for my dogs last Halloween. We'll see you there, and don't forget to sew in chaos, but maybe not with an AI pattern. Also, please never buy AI patterns. They're absolute trash and garbage and should never be used by humans. They'd be better down here. But that's not how they designed it. It's supposed to go up here, they say. I'm almost 40. This might not be a good plan.